is serious. I am still on the back end of a cold. I apologize. That's why my voice sounds like this. I may break into a coughing fit in the middle of this. I hope not, but I'm just warning you ahead of time. I just
wave your hand and shriek, and I'll
lean away
something.
from the mic, and I will do my best. But we're just really excited to do this, and we should probably get at it. Here we go.
Do it.
900 episodes. My son, when I said to him last night, we were about to do podcast 900, he said, "Are you going to say 900 episodes? It's a lot of us talking."
Yes, you just did.
I was like, okay, son, you're right. I guess I will. And I guess you've heard me do this at least once. So here I am. And here we are. And 900 episodes. But it is actually, sorry, it is a lot of us talking. Let's dive in with questions from, Discord and Instagram and other places while you guys tee up your questions, because we're very excited about it. Ted Theologian is not going to be with us because he's watching Furiosa. I hope that's good.
I hope that's good too.
The new Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
He's wondering if we like the black license plate trend.
I kind of like the black license plate trend. I'm not a fan of black wheels. Neither are you, but the black license tag, it's now on the Corvette as show car. So that's up there. I'm seeing a lot more Utah license tag with the black plate thing, which actually is kind of a vintage sort of thing, but it might be like the Model T. It's black because you only get the one choice, and so that we just painted all the old
it does look good.
Tags.
My wife has asked for a black plate. We'll see if we go down that route. I'm actually going to try to get we're going to try to get one for the Amira. That'd be good.
Yeah.
So that's happening. The Amira is it's so good. I put 500 miles on it in less than 2 weeks.
I love it, man.
Kind of hoping that I can get all the way to engine break-in by this weekend, but we'll see. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody, by the way. We're very excited about that. Maybe you get some time off.
Tell the story about swapping the wheels already. You got the wheels swapped out, and it's rolling on silver wheels.
Yeah. I cannot wait to actually show you guys silver wheels. I have factory silver wheels and didn't have to powder coat them, because after I dropped that introductory video, a couple of people contacted me about the car, and one guy, I wasn't sure it was real. He said, "Hey, I'm about to pick up the car from Orange County, his own Amira from Orange County. What if I drive it through and we swap wheels, because I want black wheels?" And I was like, really? So he showed up yesterday. He showed up. Thank you, Mike. And we did this hot swap thing, because you can jack the Amira up one side at a time. We did this hot swap thing. You can't find Amiras anywhere. We had two in the driveway. We hot swapped
just to freak out the neighbors even
black,
more.
And both of us left happier. I'm so excited about the silver wheels.
It looks great, man.
Even better, which I didn't think was possible, but it's very, very cool.
I'm so excited. If you haven't seen that video, hopefully you have. Yeah, that was a special moment, taking delivery of that thing. First time you saw it, and I love that I love that you're rocking it. And you're just driving it everywhere. That's excellent. Guys, thank you for joining the podcast. Thank you for being listeners of the podcast, and definitely watchers, consumers of the YouTube content. We really appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing the podcast, because this is a family, right? This is our home for all the car enthusiasts out there. We love that. I'm jumping into a question here from our friend Andrew, known as Color Cartel, asking about the new BMW art car. I did not see it. I do love art cars. I'm not super fan. I'm not really on board with what Jeff Koons has done with his versions of the art car. I feel like it's been a lazy attempt at what Andy Warhol created back in the 70s. I much prefer those versions. There have been other people that have done art cars, the Sharpie drawings on the Gallardos and a lot of other stuff, but BMW just kind of has this thing because of Andy Warhol. So no, I haven't seen it. I need to look that up, but I'm a big fan of art cars of any kind. And I'm a big fan of your art car too. You actually did a 911 not too long ago, a couple years ago, I think. And that was very cool. Really cool. So I'm a big fan.
Club Racer 6 says, will an Indy Miata, that's the 4th gen Miata, the current one, be able to hang with the group at the Utah Adventure, or does he need to go with a C7 Corvette? You know what, man? Bring a Miata. People bring Miatas every year. You have a great time. There are stretches on the trip when having long legs and a lot of power is helpful, but there's short stretches. Most of it is a car you're happy to be comfortable in. And again, I've done it in the Elise, and some amazing tight roads with great corners where you will be ecstatic to be in that Miata. You'd have a great time. Don't worry about it.
Got a question here about cul-de-sac car from Trogdor 147. Thank you for the question. Asking what other cars are examples of cul-de-sac cars, because yes, the Elise is that. And I think it is the BMW clown shoe, the Z3M car, and also the 1M. Both of those, I just saw one the other day. It was the full hard top. The clown shoe was the Z3, the M version of that car. really cool looking. There's
Interesting
nothing
question. What
like
do you
that
jump from
car
that? That's interesting.
because of its usefulness, because of the engine, because of how small it is, all those things, just the look to it, and of course the 1N. But also, we've talked about those moment in time cars from 2011, 2012, 2013. The Cadillac V Series wagon could be a moment in time car.
I think it is a moment in time car, and you're right. There really isn't a good car right now to jump to after that.
I mean, it could be a cul-de-sac car too.
Because the reality is, even if you get a hot wagon in the States and you're lucky enough to do that, you can't get it manual.
No, that's
and
true.
That was a hot wagon in manual. That's pretty much done. I also wonder if the BMW i8 is a cul-de-sac car because of what that does.
Yeah.
Because most car makers have not made a plug-in hybrid supercar looking thing that's really a GT car with a removable top. That's a weird combination that I don't know exists beyond buying that car.
That's good. Yeah, all those moment in time cars that we identified. There's
PT Cruiser. No, sorry, that's a whole separate thing.
Oh no, that is a cul-de-sac car.
You could buy the Chevy HHR.
The wrong cul-de-sac.
Yeah, you're just lost.
Turn
that's
back.
What's happened. Yeah, totally good.
That's more of like a corn maze. Like you did it wrong. It's not a cul-de-sac so much. It's
the corn maze car. That's very good.
It's like one of those
really good
Halloween corn maze.
I really like that. That's excellent.
Kinds of cars. Yeah, I think there's going to be more of those cars in the future. It's I think the new ND3 will become that. The new Miata will become that.
Very interesting.
I think it will. I think GR86s are in that category, but yeah.
Somebody's asking here. That is Scott Rose. Scott Rose asking, do we think the Toyota Tacoma and the Tundra are way overpriced, or are they both worth it? Two thoughts here. On the surface, those prices are ridiculous. They're crazy how expensive those things are now. However, they are also surprisingly competitive with everything else they directly compete with. Full-size trucks alongside the Tundra cost about what the Tundra does.
The Silverados are really expensive now.
Those mid-size, trucks that like the Tacoma are about as expensive as that, maybe a little bit less, but not much. So we have two thoughts here. One, I can't believe that the market is that expensive because it just is. Toyota charging a premium for both of theirs. They're leaning on their reputation and hoping that they are both very good. I feel like trucks across the board, though, are too expensive. Trucks used to be the cheap buy. They used to be simple. They are none of the above right now, and so you got to pay for it.
Anna Suarez asking about some Hooked on Driving events in the Washington, D.C. and Virginia area. Our Northeast region did a VIR event earlier this year, but it's not as common as we want it to be. So thank you for the note. We are definitely looking more at that area and some other new areas too. But yeah, keep an eye on the calendar. We're always going to be updating that. But interestingly, now through probably September is about the time where we're going to be working with tracks for the following year, for 2025. So we're starting to investigate dates for that. So keep your eye on the calendar there. I've also got a question from Eli Miller talking about early M2s. They're now $45,000. Is one in my future? Eli, thanks for the question. Yes, I nearly bought one years ago. I stayed with Cayman. I really love the Cayman. I drove it again. I got an oil change today. The air filter was really dirty, like embarrassingly dirty, but it just came to life. It's just such a great car to drive. And I do like the M2, but then the competition came out. Then the CS came out, which I liked even better. But then there's the problem of all the GR cars that have come along, especially the GR Corolla. And I've toyed with the idea about one of those just being the perfect winter car, skis, all-wheel drive, winter tires, perfect. I would love one of those, but I admit to wanting a GT4, so I need to sell the current Cayman.
I'm sorry.
Double the budget.
You got to pick a lane. You got to pick which dream garage you want to fill. I get it. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
And get a GT4. How can I get into a GT4? Just a 718 Cayman GT4.
Just a 718 GT4.
With the seats.
Everyone.
It's got to have the seats.
That, yeah.
I find a lot of them, but they don't have the right seats. I don't understand. Why would you buy that car without the bucket seats? I don't get it. If you're getting the comfort seats in a GT4, I don't understand. I find a lot of this. Anyway.
Jared Byer says, is there a car that is the perfect blend of backroad hot hatch and comfy highway GT car? He's hoping more hot hatch than a Mercedes GLA 45, but also more comfortable. I can think of one right now.
Okay.
The Acura Integra Type S.
That's very good. Yes.
Would do it. And here's the other part of that equation. We have a friend, Chris, he goes by the Topher. He does the definitive POV stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
He has the FL5, the latest Type R. And he did, there's a very common upgrade online where you put in the suspension module. It plugs in from the Type S into the Type R, and it gives the Type R, it takes away its most aggressive setting, but it makes the suspension much more livable. So theoretically, you could do a Type R with that change and pull it off as well. Both of those would work.
Although I like to stay in the Mercedes camp and go with the new AMG GT. They have reinvented the 928. You realize that?
True,
the other company
true.
across town in Stuttgart took the 928, added back seats. It's like the new incarnation of a 928, and I want one. I know it's going to be heavy, but I know it's going to be fast, and it's going to feel lightweight. It's going to be freaking awesome, and I want to drive that car.
I'm excited.
Really badly.
It shouldn't have gotten bigger, and it shouldn't have gotten heavier. It got both. People are still liking
Agreed,
it. The last
yes.
version we loved.
Yes.
Tim Bailey's asking about Paper Father, my novel here. You know, in my perfect world, I get a lot more novels done. We're a little busy, so it doesn't happen like you wanted. But anyway, he's asking if an audiobook is still in the works. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, it has happened much slower than I wanted because of voice issues. Honestly, I last summer, I lost my voice pretty dramatically with laryngitis, worse than I'd ever had.
Mm-hmm.
When it came back, I couldn't do anything but my normal speaking voice. And I'm really doing the audiobook as best I can, you know, accents, voices, all this kind of stuff. And anytime I did that, it just hurt. So since then, I've had to be very careful. I mean, like I wanted to do it this week. My voice sounds like this. I couldn't. So that has slowed me down a bit. I am 3/4 of the way through recording the audiobook, and there's post-production after it, which is actually, for me, not going to take that long. So yes, it's in the works. I hope you'll want to listen. I hope my performance is decent enough you enjoy it and don't go, what is this guy doing? But it is taking a while just because of voice, honestly.
Boondock St. Ryan asking about Hooked on Driving. Do we only work with track owners for Hooked on Driving events, or are there other approved or recognized racing groups that typically host and manage events? There are, and we do like putting on white label events. We're going to start hopefully working with some manufacturers, but we have worked just recently in April with McLaren San Francisco to put on a day for McLaren San Francisco customers, and also the Cadillac V Club. The V Club does a lot of stuff around the nation, but we've worked with them actually just recently, early April, I believe.
Yeah.
They've
been
they
to
were
the
in
Pacific
Southeast.
Northwest since.
They're Pacific Northwest. They've been to the Southeast. So there's a lot of different groups or chapters of the Cadillac V Club. And Hooked on Driving the Past has done a lot of collaborations with those kinds of events, not necessarily competitors, but other groups, clubs, BMW, Audi, Porsche Club of America, the Corvette clubs, a lot of these groups, and they're looking for special days. And so we're absolutely able to take that on.
But to flip that question around the other way, we don't have anyone else host events in HOD's name. It is
correct. Yes,
we have franchisees throughout the nation, and they are actually, those franchisees, thankfully, are great boots on the ground doing events all over the nation for us. But we aren't having the HOD banners being run by someone else, though we do the reverse.
Chris is asking about the BMW Beaver Teeth. Are they as bad now as it was when it was introduced, or is it growing on everyone? Everyone? Is it growing on you? The only reason
like a fungus.
The only reason it grew on me is because of that sweet Schnitzer wagon. It's technically the ACS3 wagon, sport wagon. It has the Euro plate on it, and I talk about another car I need.
You
food,
have a big
water,
list.
shelter, Wi-Fi.
GT4 and now M3.
GT4, AMG GT,
I've heard your list. Yeah.
M3, maybe a GR Corolla, and I'll just.
You're struggling, buddy. I still am
I'm
marveling that the Amira is anywhere in my orbit, but you're off there with a 6-car garage. Anyway, I totally get that.
Just need more space.
NK is actually asking. He's saying Nate K's writing in saying he considered buying a C6Z Corvette. We actually recommended an Indy Miata. He still needs to purchase. He ended up with a sweet E30, which good for you. That's very, very cool. Scott Rose back saying he has a friend with a Frontier that says people only buy Toyotas for the name. The name and the reputation of reliability. I hate to say it, but we're big fans of the new Frontier, and I just read that its reliability so far has not been good. People have bought them in the past because they have been bulletproof trucks. That is why many of the Toyota diehard truck people are concerned about the V6 and V8 going away and replacing them with hybrids that are turboed. We'll see what the reliability is like.
Let's see. Mark R asking about paint protection film factory installed, like the new Mustang Dark Horse matte clear package. Factory installed, yes, I do appreciate that. But then there's the buy a car and have a dealer do it, and that's where you get overcharged. And so if you're going to have it done after the fact instead of factory and check the box, I would say find your local install shop. They'll probably charge you less, and they'll do as good or better a job.
Thank you for the super chat from BJJ is writing in saying he feels like, he says he has a first gen NSX and thinks the Amira is the modern day successor. You were reading our mind because that comparison is coming. So, because I actually think it is the closest one as well. I think, let me put it another way. The second gen NSX is a moonshot in the same way the first one was a moonshot, but their targets are different.
It's a sweet car. It looks so pretty.
But the reality of the second gen NSX is, I think what everybody was expecting was the modern version of what the first one was, and that's not where they went. They chased like the 918 Porsche. So we are going to put them together and have a conversation. We can't wait to do that. Thank you for the super chat.
Let's talk t-shirts. Martin C. asking about, Todd, your 86 shirt. Is that a Blip Shift shirt? Yes, that is a Blip Shift shirt, and it does need to make a return. That's one of the better ones. I missed out on that one, so I need to get one.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
We need one in gray or like a heather, like that blue or something with the.
That's what they always do. They always do a different color. Yep.
But also, this shirt right here is the shirt that every pilgrimage attendee will get. So thank you, Mandy. Mandy Combs has introduced this along with our graphics person, Nate. He is also the Cycle Report, and he does a lot of great stuff for us. He designed the Everyday Driver logo. So he worked with Mandy to do this shirt, and this is the shirt that everybody will get for this year's pilgrimage trip. Pretty awesome. So it's got both tracks, red and blue. And then down here, it's like the world tour with all the names.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's
all the corner names.
All the corner names. I'm really excited about that shirt.
Which is pretty cool. So
yeah.
I'm really stoked about this shirt. So this is just for pilgrimage attendees. We actually are still going back to the Ring and Spa with Hooked on Driving, October 13th through the 17th.
There's still some
2
space
days.
left. Yeah, it's going to be
2
great.
days on Spa, 1 day on the Ring. That is through Hooked on Driving. You can go to hookedondriving.com to find registration there. This is for the Everyday Driver shirt, but it's kind of become a thing now. It's each year's, the annual shirt.
It's very cool.
And some other swag too.
Hayden Norris is saying he's watched our Chuck Wagon video on the F56 Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works. Have we driven the S trim? Which one would we recommend for a fun daily driver? Either. I mean, can you go for the upper trim? The S trim, you're not going to be disappointed by. The John Cooper Works is just a little bit more hardcore, but it's not a drastic change. So I think if you had the S, you'd enjoy it. I think you need to try to test drive both, because I don't know what your roads in your area are like. You may decide you want one versus the other. What's your driving style like? We really like the JCW, but back when I had my first gen Mini, the F53, that was a supercharged, which I loved the supercharged. That was a supercharged S. There was no John Cooper Works at that point. So I really love that car. I would totally go with the S.
3-Point Turn asking about design and driving dynamics. If they're identical, wouldn't it be the smarter move to buy the model that the company builds for better dealership service, especially with technicians who are more familiar? Certainly that's a good line of thinking, and you're not wrong there. It's getting those technicians and the dealer service up to speed quickly. There are third-party companies dedicated solely to dealership groups and anybody selling or retailing the car to get them familiarized with it, either in driving or mechanics or engineering or whatever that is, and getting people up to speed quickly. And that's a lot of dealer group employees to move through a program. We see that at various tracks, various events nationwide. So yes, theoretically speaking, we're finding a lot of Amiras are getting out there.
Yep.
They're actually starting to really be released.
We had two in the driveway this week.
Yeah, just crazy. But yeah, those technicians, those dealers have to be up to speed very quickly. I mean, we're finding out how to jack up the car properly. Mm-hmm. And the chassis is so incredibly stiff, you can use the rear jack point under the engine and it lifts the entire side of the car off the ground. So things like that, just have to get everybody up to speed. But it does happen, and you're right. That is interesting. But, there's always going to be the naysayers.
Ray Lee is actually asking me about the gearing in the Amira. He says everybody seems to universally complain that the current Porsche GT cars have got their manual transmissions are too high. The gearing is too high. You can get up to like 80 or 90 in second. He's asking how the Amira is. Now, two thoughts here. First off, I'm not through break-in yet, so I'm being cautious, though Lotus's break-in is very interesting. Actually, in the manual, they talk about first 1,000 miles for engine break-in, but they do not say, do not exceed an RPM. Mm-hmm. They say, 4,000 is kind of the target, but the red line is almost 7,000, like 6,800, and they acknowledge they want you to explore the top half occasionally. Don't just like lock it off anywhere, or anything above 4,001 is terrible. The manual is very interesting. But to your question, so I'm not revving it out a lot yet. but I find myself in normal driving in third a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, because third is like mid to lower half of the rev band, just doing normal things. Obviously, freeway is different. I think it is shorter gearing than the Porsche. I'd be curious to actually think about that back to back. When we had the GTS 4.0, I didn't actually think about that point. When we had it with the Emira on our original Comparo, I didn't think about that point at the time. But I will say, I'll answer the question to say this. So far, the Emira feels like it's properly spaced and not too long.
Kiancho, thanks for writing. Thanks for the question. Kiancho's in a conundrum, who currently owns a VN, believe that's a Veloster N. He dailies and tracks, but he wants a GR Supra next year. Is it worth it to just modify the Veloster N more for track purpose or save and buy the Supra? It depends on what you want to get out of your track driving because, of course, the Veloster N is excellent. It's designed for track use, but it's front-wheel drive, whereas the GR Supra is also designed for track use. Different kind of driving experience. You can get manual with either, but the dynamics on both are so very different. And if you're wanting something next, rather than pouring all your money to the Veloster N to say, I want to squeeze faster times out of it, would the different car just inherently give you a different platform to enjoy more? Maybe it is faster, certainly different engine. You're going to have to decide, what are you going after for your track driving? And that will dictate kind of where you're going with your car purchase. But as far as mods, we always recommend the driver upgrade first, always. And then we recommend tires. Brakes go along with the tires, of course, and do not forget to change your brake fluid. That is very crucial for track use. But those three things, you upgrade the tires alone, you could probably find another 4 years with your current car trying to find the new edges of that car.
Interesting, possibly. That's good. Derek Miller, my 13-year-old nephew, is starting a car wash business. Any pointers for him? Be careful. Use Griot's products. Don't scratch anything.
Use Griot's products.
That's the high points right there. Let's see. Oh, are we getting in the Ioniq 5N soon? G Weeper 64. It is on our short list. We were just talking about schedule yesterday, Paul and Chance and I, because we have a really stacked next 6 months worth of filming. It's amazing how much we're going to film in the next 6 months. It's been quiet first quarter, but now it gets crazy. We're very excited. The Ioniq 5N is on our list. I think it's one of the ones we're going to have to go to LA for.
I think so too.
And I'm willing to. I'd really like to drive that car.
Steve M., I'm finding your question down here similar to the Ioniq 5N. Will we do a comparison of that and the Tesla Model 3 performance? Todd and I are seeing a lot of new introductions, especially EVs, being introduced on track as track-specific cars, as if to say, why would you buy this car if you're not going to also track it? Which is very interesting. And I want to put this thought out to all of you. And it is a thought that came up on our recent Hooked on Driving trip with one of the attendees. And he posed this thought. So it's not mine, it's not Todd's, but he posed this thought. We're seeing the Ioniq 5N come out. During the same time, the week before, of course, the Taycan Turbo GT with the Weissach package was introduced in Spain on a track. We're seeing, the question was, what if all the performance cars become EVs and all the regular cars are just the gas-powered cars driving around on the freeways, and those are the pickup trucks, the SUVs, the haulers, all that kind of stuff. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks because we're seeing it more, but I can't definitively say one way or the other. But I find it interesting that car manufacturers are introducing EVs as track performance and track-worthy cars. So to do the Ioniq 5N properly, the question is, especially with the Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is designed for a track, do we put them on track because track pieces don't get watched?
Yeah, in general, comparatively.
But these are cars designed for it and marketed at their launch to be on track. So do we drive them on track? Is it a half and half for a comparison like that? Do we, half track use, half street use? I mean, of course, you don't have to track it. But I find it fascinating that manufacturers are pointing their new launches in that direction. I don't have a definitive answer.
John is saying, is there a car that feels like the Mini Cooper S to drive, but doesn't make people say, what a cute car? He said he loved his, but he just, after a while, couldn't take the design or those comments. That's really interesting. You know what? Elantra N. Well, no one will ever say that's a cute car. And it is a fantastic front-wheel drive to drive. So I think, and even with the refresh, now the refresh is so much better, but it's still not a cute car.
Eric P, are there wide seat mods? Eric is wider in the hips and gluten, and if he sits in the car with a heavily bolstered seat, sitting on the bolsters, this is happening in the Supra and was very uncomfortable. I don't know of too many wide seat mods in particular, but I know good upholsterers can take care of you, very, very much so. That'd be more of an individual fitment, but think of it like a Formula One fitment. They pour the foam around the guy, and you're molded in the seat. I'm sure a great upholsterer could do the same.
Also, do agree that the Fiesta ST is an option of one that would not be a cute car. I see that answer here. That's good as well. Trogdor147 says he's hearing people say that the steering feel on the first-gen GT86 is better than the second-gen GR86. Others say the opposite. What do we think? I'm very sorry, guys. Very sorry. I think the GR86 is a fundamentally better car across the board than the first gen, and I owned both. Okay, I think it's a better car. You could potentially argue that the steering feel of the first is slightly better than the second, but the entire car has been improved, I would say, in every category you can think of, probably about 5%. So if the steering got 3% less, but the whole rest of the car got better, I think the GR86 is a better car fundamentally across the board. The first gen, what's interesting about those is they're becoming like a Miata in that you can get a great car for not much money on the first gen.
Super 65 asking about the future. Will people put the cheap stick-on fake intake vents on EVs, regardless of the fact that the car does not need intakes?
That's fun. I like that.
That's an interesting question. What cheap, crappy mod can we sell? What can we all come up with that we can sell that people will buy to stick on their car, like fake portholes or fake vents, or you outline the door trim in chrome? Well, thanks to Jeep Wagoneer, you can get that from the factory now. So good news, everyone. Let's invent something. I don't know what that would be. Canards? Maybe canards for the front of your EV track car?
For 5 minutes, there was a Park City-based company selling those eyelashes. So you just got to hit that.
I still see those.
That was a Park City-based company.
I know.
Every now and then you just hit that ridiculous thing that for whatever reason everyone must own for 5 minutes, and then it goes away. Justin, my fellow Lotus lease owner, is asking about the Amira. He said, did I see my Amira co-star with a silver Amira in the Greg's Race Parts reel on Instagram? I did not see this. Now I want to look it up, because I was actually on their site recently. They did an at toward me when the piece launched, and I actually want to follow up with them. So I'm going to have to look into that. I appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you.
MC Now asks, if we had to do it again, would we buy Hooked on Driving again?
Oh, good question.
Or are we both on the honeymoon? I would say yes. It's really been quite an education because this is a people business. It just happens to involve cars and tracks, but it's a people business. And learning from where we're at now, I would ask different questions, and I would know more about what to ask, but the answer is absolutely yes.
I think that's an excellent answer. I think there's no question that we would have. There's a few things. Here's what I'll say. There's a couple of things that we are addressing now that I would have put at the front of the list.
Agreed.
That was the thing for me, is that now we're 3 or 4 months in, I'm realizing, we're getting to this and we can solve it. We really should have had this on the radar, and we didn't know. Should have had this on the radar right out front. Okay, that's fine.
It's like any airline. It's a people business. You're just using airplanes to manage people. That's all you're doing. So it's the same kind of headspace, which I would have taken that a little bit differently, but yes, absolutely.
Fake Aero wheel covers are already selling for EVs. You're right, they are. Well, yeah, it's a ridiculous thing, of course.
Right.
Because here's the thing: we went through an era where wheel covers were the thing. Like the back wall of your local auto parts store was all wheel covers, and they went out of fashion. And now they're back because EVs include them for supposed aerodynamic benefits. And now we have wheel covers again.
It's going to be all about.
Isn't that bizarre?
Aero.
What I find fascinating though is typically when you pull now. Prius as an example, Cyber Beast as an example. When you pull a wheel cover off, most of the time the wheel underneath there is halfway decent.
Exactly.
In the sea of Caprice Classics that my dad owned that I inherited, okay, you pulled the wheel covers off, it was just a steely under there. It was ugly. Now you pull the wheel cover off, it's like a wheel. It's kind of cool looking.
That's so funny. Yeah, the Cybertruck wheels are actually pretty decent looking.
Yeah, they're all right.
They're fine.
Eli Miller with a super chat says he's got this is his challenge, 17,000 to spend. And okay, do it all daily. Can't be a car either of us have owned before. Available in manual or auto.
Owned makes it easier. Owned makes it easier because
something we haven't owned.
Like do it all daily.
It takes stuff out of the equation.
How much are Veloster ends?
That's a good one. You might be able to pull off a 17 grand. You
Are
go
they
back
17?
That you could probably pull that off. I see that. That's good. That's
how much
very good.
are Corolla, the lukewarm Corollas, the XSE?
The XSE, yeah, sure. I see that. Yeah.
Those are easy 17, are they not?
And they're manual and auto. That's a good one as well. Both of those are excellent. Yeah,
you could get auto too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is actually intriguing, Eli, because it's something that we do intend to work on. Is one of these do it all daily comparos that is coming. So that's a good question. I really appreciate that.
Let's see.
Boondock St. Ryan, we can crowdfund the dumbest crap we don't need. How can we crowdfund the car we all want? Poll your audience, partner with our channels and sites. Have a Factory 5, Paul build and design. This is cool. This is funny. I mean, look, this is something we try to be really careful about because we have on a few occasions gone to you guys and asked you to directly support what we do beyond just Patreon, and thank you to our patrons.
For sure.
You know, when we did our first cheap car challenge, we actually kind of preloaded that. People donated and we used the proceeds to buy those cars, and then that became the group we raffled to. You guys came alongside us and we had all our gear stolen. That was very cool. We really try very hard to not come to you just hat in hand to do content. We kind of do content, frankly, I would say the old filmmaking way and not the YouTube way. The YouTube way is I'm making content that doesn't cost me anything, that's already paid for by a sponsor, so every dollar goes to profit. That is listen along, kids, the smarter way to do YouTube. That's not what we do. We do it much more like independent film, where we will film something that we know on the front end. Our road trips are the best example. We want to do it. We're excited about it, and we believe people will find it and love it. When we get done making one of our road trips, we are in the red on that piece, and they make money over time. All of these feature films were done that way. Every single one of the 50 years of 9/11 was terrifying because we went way into the red for where our channel was at the time. So that is, if you will, our crowdfunding. We take the risk, hoping you guys will show up, and we hope you keep showing up because we love doing it.
Over on Instagram, Isaac Redinger is asking about Kate. When is she getting twin Jeeps?
Funny.
And what pair of cars will your son be getting? Because I forget whose comment it was on Discord. It was awesome. Coming up with a bumper sticker for this guy. My other Cayenne is a Cayenne.
That's very good. There was a joke on Discord. All of our patrons are on Discord, so thank you guys. There was a joke on Discord when there was a lot of debate about what my next car was going to be, that I was going to pull off a third Cayenne, so I had one of every generation.
What a great idea.
Missed opportunity, right?
Totally.
I could own the entire...
There's still time.
Here's the irony.
The door's not closed.
I feel certain I am the only journalist who owns more than one Cayenne consecutively, and when they launched the latest Cayenne, we were not invited to the launch. We are still laughing about that. The irony there is
whatever.
Anyway, yeah.
We'd rather have the Cayenne for a week to do what we want with it rather than being guided through, but whatever. It's all good, right? What else you got?
How much of a rattle trap was Kyle's Cyber Beast? This is G Weeper 64. This is okay. Kyle Connor runs the Out of Spec EV focused YouTube channel. They're very successful over there. We're friendly with them. Jordan Schieffer, who shoots with him and works with him, also shoots and works with us. So that's really cool. Jordan was coming back from the Grand World Tour with that Cyber Beast. He took it out to LA. Matt Farah drove it for his review. Motor Trend had it for a week on their review.
Jason Fensky did the 911 towing with it.
Redid the drag race. So lots of stuff happened. It is 12,000 miles on it. We have that review coming out on the Test Drive channel right here on Sunday, our Cyber Beast review. We look forward to talking with you about it. The interesting thing is 12,000 miles has to be the highest mileage Cybertruck out there. It has to be.
They keep driving it. And you know what? It was fine. It was fine. Everything worked fine. It was not a rattle trap. It was just all fine. The tires were pretty worn down, so that's going to be kind of an expensive charge. But you know what? Thanks to Kyle for letting us drive it and Jordan for bringing it by. We had a great time with it. It was very interesting. But as soon as we started driving, we saw another one and then another one. And then it was sort of like, you're not unique. It was the weirdest thing, but we did have fun driving it.
I'm very curious. You'll hear all of our thoughts on Sunday. There's a lot of debate. It's actually kind of a longer test drive. We enjoyed shooting it. And that was actually here's the ridiculousness. The reason that Cybertruck is in my Amira reveal is because the day we picked up the Amira is the only day we had with the Cybertruck. So I drove the Amira home and parked it and spent the rest of the day with the Cybertruck. It was very odd, but I was glad we could do it.
Launch control hurts. It just hurts.
Yeah,
Launch mode.
You're right.
It just, your brain swims, your eyes just blur. It's really ridiculous. But this is what we as humans, this is what we want, right? The quicker 0 to 60 time must mean it's better somehow.
Kiki says, I'm looking to move on from a 2-liter Julia, eyeing to get a V8 GT car as the next daily. Love it. Debating a C7 Corvette or the RCF, or should Kiki hold out for the LC, the Lexus LC 500? $55,000 is the top budget. Will not do a Mustang. My guess is you probably therefore will also not do a Camaro because of the vibe that sets. A couple of things here. The RCF is not special enough. The best thing about the RCF is the engine. And I would submit to you, if you want the V8 in something that is not the LC 500, get the IS 500. Because the IS 500 with that V8 is actually a very interesting car, and it's a good usable four-door. That would be the way to get a V8. If you want to stay Lexus below the LC 500, you want the LC 500. $55,000 is the bottom of that market right now, actually. So maybe hold out for the LC 500, but I think you would be very, very happy in a properly spec'd C7 Corvette. It would have the fun factor that the RCF does not, but is still a surprisingly nice place to be.
Let's see. 3-point turn for me. Question for me: if I ever met the perfect lady and her ultimatum is that I must own automatics moving forward because she can't drive manual transmission and doesn't want to learn, is she automatically out? No, not necessarily.
How perfect a lady is this? Anyway, yeah.
If she's the perfect lady, then you know what? PDK.
You're right. That's true. You can stay with PDK and be quite happy.
Dual clutches. There's a lot of good dual clutches. You know what? That means we just get to move into the McLarens. They're all dual clutches, right? We could move up into, it doesn't just have to be manual. But so no, if she were the perfect gal, then no.
Let's see. Dak 981 says, wishes Patreon had a one-time donation access for a year. I'll look into it. I'm not sure if that exists. It might. We can certainly look and see if that's a thing.
Let's see. Paint jobs on Cybertrucks. Not necessarily, because it's the stainless. So all the cool kids are doing wraps apparently. And on the configurator, you can change the color. It's actually a slider. So you've got all 256, more than that, all the colors to change your Cybertruck on screen to match whatever the wrap is that you're going to get. So it's, it was anticipated because you don't want to paint the stainless.
Well, but I also think it's a bit of a cop out.
You want to use Barkeeper's Friend and Windex, apparently.
Yes. I think it's a bit of a cop out that you can't paint them, but we will give you the UI to imagine it was in a color, which I think is kind of ridiculous, but we'll see what happens on there.
Oh, Mandy is just texting us. Annual subscriptions are possible on Patreon because Andrew Color Cartel does it. So that's fantastic news.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
She knows more about it than I do, which is actually not really much of a surprise. Yeah,
exactly. I was going to say.
Kiancho says, Todd and Paul, are you guys going to do a road trip and come out to the Southeast Coast and do a meetup HOD event at Road Atlanta? We would love to. It is on our list. One of the nicest things about this Hooked on Driving acquisition is we can go to more places in the nation and have events. So it's something that's definitely on our mind. We are looking at a few cool tracks for next year. And it gives us, I don't mean this to sound weird, but it gives us an excuse to come that doesn't have to be based on, do we have a brand new car to drive? So we're very excited. Hopefully we want to come Southeast. We also want to do Tail of the Dragon because we've never done that. It seems like an obvious place for a road trip. But our road trip this year is going to, in our road trip film coming up in July, we're shooting it. It'll probably come out in around September. That is ending at a Hooked on Driving event. That's the other thing that's very exciting is we can do one of these road trips that is this destination. We show you the cool roads. We show you the history, all that kind of stuff, and have as our terminus a Hooked on Driving track day and a cool track. So that opens up all kinds of great road trips.
On Facebook, Eddie Murphy is asking, gem or grenade? Eddie just bought a one-owner, 220,000-mile, year 2000 BMW 528 manual with all paperwork from purchasing to current day. Whoa, no issues yet. Did he find a gem or a future grenade? I think you found a gem because a lot of the really great, the older BMWs that I've seen, I'll look at the odometer and they have well over 150,000 miles, some over 250,000 miles. So with this one, it's just been driven and taken care of. So I say you found a gem. It will always need stuff, but at that mileage and that age, most of it's probably already been done once or twice. So I fantastic buy. I mean, you're taking a risk. I bought a Maserati with a credit card.
Yeah, you did.
At Las Vegas and by the airport.
The shadiest purchase ever. I feel like it was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In a weird parking lot from a guy who used a bail bonds office, and it wasn't his office, and I gave him a credit card.
There's stacks and stacks of weirdness on that. Plus, the thing I think also is great about that story that we don't ever hit on properly is the fact that we left the floor at SEMA, got into a cab, and said, "Take us to the shady dealer.
Take us to this weird address."
Very sorry, guys, about the coughing, but I'm doing what I can.
I'm sorry. Are you feeling better?
John Canterfy says, "What are the most beautiful cars on sale today?" I'm biased, but I'm saying Amira.
Amira is pretty.
Lexus LC 500. That's going to be a pretty car in 25 or 50 years. The LC 500 is spectacular. Those are my top two that I can think of, because anytime I see either one, granted, I own an Amira. Anytime I see either one of those, I'm just like, that's just great looking. It's phenomenal looking. Those are my top two. There may be others that filter into my brain. I'll just randomly shout out a car like I've got car Tourette's.
I do like the AMG GT, but this new version is not as pretty as the last one. The last one was just gorgeous.
Last one was really, really good. I agree with that. Yeah.
The proportions changed because they added the 2 seats and changed the drivetrain a little bit, but still, it's really good looking. It's really pretty.
Nathan Goals is telling us that the other day he was watching a TFL truck episode with the Cybertruck, and the podcast on screen was us. I love that.
No kidding.
That's really, really funny.
awesome.
I hadn't seen that. That's funny
really
to hear.
cool.
Those are good guys. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, funny. Dak981 also says he recently found someone that makes stickers to put on the blanks in your Porsche interior that don't have anything.
Oh, yeah?
And they're all based on Mario Kart, so you can have turtle shell, banana peel.
No kidding.
You can act like you're dropping all of those. That's very funny. I love it. How hot is it typically in Utah in July for the adventure? Russell, depends on the day. I mean, I would say this. It'll be warm. It won't be oppressive. But if your air conditioning works, I mean, look, I survived it in the Elise. It was a bit sweaty, but it wasn't terrible. So look, it's hot. It's hot.
You survived,
but it's not. You
lost weight.
Exactly. It's not triple digit. Sticky. Utah is actually fairly dry, so it's a dry heat. So yeah, it won't be too terrible.
It's a little bit like high school wrestlers who use the hefty trash bags and jog around with the trash bag and the sweatshirt over.
You're saying this is me in the Elise?
That's the automotive equivalent of that.
Yeah.
You'll lose weight in that car. Looking for questions here.
Oh, I agree. Trogdor, the Miata RF is one of the most beautiful cars being sold right now. I totally 100% agree with that. That is that car is another one. 25, 50 years from now, still will be pretty. Cybertruck, not on the list.
Is it too much to ask all of our car manufacturers, all of our designer friends, to start designing pretty cars rather than severe or very purposeful cars? Every car has to have an element of just beauty about it, does it not?
You'd hope so.
We're sitting in traffic, we're looking at the sea of cars. Why can't we have beautiful, pretty cars? The ones that are standing out, they are so because of proportion, certainly because of the packaging, because of what they do and where the engine, the passengers are fit. But I still say pretty cars need to happen. Minivans, we need to bring beautiful lines back.
Remember the minivan? What was it called? I forget what it was called. What was the Chevy minivan that looked like the Dustbuster? The Silhouette. The Oldsmobile Silhouette.
Pontiac.
There was a Pontiac equivalent, of course, but it just looked like a Dustbuster.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was terrible. Yeah.
Jeez.
Asking about the break-in on the Amira. I am 500 miles as of today. I've done that in under 2 weeks, and I'm hoping to get most of the way to engine break-in by this weekend. It was funny. I talked to a guy at Cars and Coffee last week. I missed my estimate. My estimate was that the first Cars and Coffee I go to, I was going to be one of 4 Amiras. I was 50% wrong. There were 2 Amiras, but the other guy came up and talked to me about it.
One.
Yeah, exactly. Came up and talked to me about it. And he was talking about how close he was to break-in. He was like 750, 800 miles. This is where the conversation got funny. I said, "Oh, really? How long have you had it?" "Oh, like 8 weeks." I was like, I'm halfway there in 1. But of course, I'm obsessed. So that's how that works.
3 Point Turn says, we're talking about car designs all the time. Have there been any OEM accessories that stood out throughout these years that were really good design with function? Accessories. It really comes down to a lot of off-road accessories. There aren't too many accessories for cars, I don't think, short of, I guess, a front spoiler or the change to the front clip, like the Porsche design version instead of the standard one for the Cayman. Spoilers, I suppose. Wheels, but most of them I think are on the truck side. It really has to do with bed management, all those kinds of accessories, the rock sliders, the front and rear bumpers, that kind of thing. I think off-roaders have a far better time with cool accessories that are long lasting. But my friend Jim did get his Cybertruck, and he ordered the Cyber tent, and he's going to have it fitted soon, and he offered it to us. And I want to fit the Cyber tent, because then you level the car. There's a button, and depending on the uneven ground that you have parked your Cybertruck, it will level the surface. So when you're sleeping in the back under your Cyber tent, you can lie flat. It'll be stable and comfortable.
I love that accessories were made for that car 3 years before it came out.
Cyber
People
tent.
I'm sorry. People actually put their life savings on, I've made a tent for a vehicle that weren't sure was going to exist. Church of Petrol, thank you for the super chat. Are there any opportunities with Hooked on Driving? Yes, absolutely. He said he would love to help us some events, maybe even instruct if deemed worthy to do so. He's in the Southeast right now, but open to travel. Give us an email at Everyday Driver, and actually, you know what? Better. Get us an email at theguys@hookedondriving.
There we go. Yes.
That's our Hooked on Driving email address. Of course, we're obviously both reading that. We can connect you up with Steve in the Southeast and Mark and Cody in the Northeast, depending upon where you are, and talk to them about it directly. They can talk to you about possibly coaching or that kind of thing. I mean, there are opportunities in those regards. There are opportunities also in possibly being an additional franchisee. We're looking for other franchisees. I don't want to go too far down the road in that discussion, but there is places where we're expanding, and if you're interested, we'd love to have a conversation. So the guys at Hooked on Driving for that stuff.
Let's see. Club Racer 6. What about the roof box? Our colleague in Utah, known as Strad, rocked that on his Lambo. And then he did the whole wrap thing. I actually liked that. Okay. I've actually considered doing the same thing with the Corvette, but I don't know why. I don't know what that would do, but it would just look cool. But you're right. The roof box is pretty cool. The aerodynamic is pretty cool on a sports car. But we did skis with our sports cars. That'll come out in October. That video will come out in October. So we did skis, and we were rocking Vredestein Winters, Windtrack Pros.
It was actually really more fun than I ever thought it would be to drive the Elise in a blizzard. It was so much fun.
Just was donuts in the parking lot.
I mean, that car is so light and tells you so much. Sorry, Elise rant. Tells you so much information anyway. All of that transfers to winter driving, which is awesome. Aiden Torres says, have we ever considered a road trip with our mountain bikes to a place like Bentonville? The Amira and see it would look cool with mountain bike rack. It's that whole James Bond thing. What cool racks can you put on? I do like that. Totally. I will say this. Our hope is, and I don't know if it's going to pull off, but we're trying for it, is to take my first gen Cayenne, make it into more of an off-roader, and take that to Moab with bikes. That's actually on our list this year. We'll see if we can do that.
Which of the Cayennes are you talking about? I forgot.
Yeah, the first, the 2010. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the slap. I appreciate it. It's excellent. You're right. There's quite a few.
Can't keep track of them all. Yeah. Anthony G says, in what world of any level of common sense would it be good to trade his 86 for a K truck as a new daily?
That's very funny.
Is there any way you could do both? Because the 86 is really good, and I don't want that to leave your life because it's just so good and it's just so much fun. But I do love the idea as the K truck too. I think you'd miss the 86 a lot if you did the K truck, because the K truck would be more novelty and it would be fun for about 11 minutes.
Yeah.
The GR86,
I would say honestly, if you are your commute, your daily commute is narrow and questionable for its safety around other cars, then K truck would be a blast because you wouldn't care and you'll fit everywhere. So if you find yourself driving your 86 around going, I'm nervous, then I think the K truck would be more fun. But to Paul's point, I think the novelty would wear off quick beyond that. So we'll see.
DAC981, speaking of HOD, have we thought about partnering with existing schools at some tracks? DAC's local track is Mid-Ohio. Their school offers track days with instructors. We've thought about it, but there is an HOD way, and we would prefer for the coaches to come run the HOD way. There's slight differences, but one of them being is the use of the word instructor and coach. And this is really hitting home for us because instructor tells you what to do and you do it and it is successful and you don't know why. Whereas a coach wants to pull that information out of you. It's a little bit of a sociology experiment, more so than just, I told you to turn in there. Well, why? I don't understand why I'm doing this. I'm following instructions, but I want to understand. So that's the term. That's what coaching really means. And so that's what we want to bring to all of our students, everybody who attends HOD, is to pull that information out of them to help you move up through the ranks, to help you become a better driver, but not just tell you what to do. It's easy to just be told what to do. That's what your driving instructor when you're 16 told you what to do and was looking for specific things, and you did it, and now you're a good driver. No, you're not. You just checked off all the boxes. So we want coaches, the HOD coaches, to be able to pull that information out of you and then say, okay, so next time I would, let's try that a little bit earlier, that turn in earlier, and see how that feels. And maybe that resonates, and it's pulling the information. And it's always that interaction between student and coach. And when I say student, that is not a derogatory term either. We are always students and always learning to become better, faster, more engaged, more attentive, better drivers.
Eli Miller says he was playing along with the board game, the 15 item must beat 15 item board game.
Oh yeah.
He said he thinks that the Elantra Inn ticks more of the 15 items than any other car on sale. What are our thoughts? To be honest, Eli, I would have to actually have the list in front of me. That was one of the things about it, is if you didn't have to meet all that, here's the alternate way to play the game. When you get the box, the board game box, and it says, here's how you play. And then sometimes you're like, here's the other way to play. The other way to play is the way you're playing, Eli. And that is 15 requirements. What's the most you can meet with a single car? We didn't play that way. That's almost a whole other topic Tuesday. I like it. It's good.
Yeah, it is. Holy moly. Coming up to the top of the hour already.
Really good stuff.
Going fast.
Oh, Trogdor, you have made my night. You've made my night. This is on my list. What vehicle would you choose for a road trip through the Dalton Highway? The Dalton Highway, for those who don't know, it is the road to the top of Alaska. So you essentially, you start in Anchorage and you work your way up to Fairbanks, and then after that it's just Dalton Highway. And somewhere in the middle of that, it turns into just dirt, and it's you and trucks. And I would love, because it's me, to do it in a sports car. Would absolutely love to do it in a sports car. But if I'm honest, to answer your question, I would probably take an 86 with a slight lift and some more all-terrain tires.
Which is what Chris did with his.
I know. I'd be the happiest. I can't believe we've referenced the Topher twice on this podcast.
That's amazing.
I think that would be brilliant on that road, but I'd do it in a Miata. I would do it in my Amira. I probably have to paint protect it again, like an extra layer, like a secondary layer.
Bubble wrap around
Seriously,
that thing.
I would love to do that drive. It's on my personal list. We shall see. Every time I bring up Alaska, because of course Paul had family live there for a long time. Every time I bring up Alaska, Paul's like, yeah, that just sounds awful. But anyway,
been to Alaska, hasn't been to Alaska.
I have been, but not as recently as you have. I know, I understand.
All right, let's see. What do we want our brand to be when podcast 1800 comes out? Maybe that's 1800.
Yeah,
that's
twice as many as now.
Twice as many as now.
Club Racer son's going to be running the podcast, and you and I are going to be sitting around going, "In my day, we had microphones." It's going to be like a hologram somewhere, and you and I are going to be, I don't know, doing something else.
So that'd be another decade.
It'd be another decade. Yeah.
So 10 years from now,
all of this is white. That's where this goes. Yeah, it's good. Seriously. I mean, here's the thing. We were just talking about it. This time next year will be 1,000 podcasts. We'll be 11 years in. It'll be 1,000 podcasts. Crazy. I don't know what yet. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. We're going to do something for 1,000. We're going to do some sort of meetup and live audience live stream of podcast 1,000. Mandy already is having ideas. I guarantee you, Mandy is having ideas this minute. But we want to do something around 1,000.
There needs to be something special.
That'll be cool.
I agree. Absolutely. Yes, we do. 1,800 though. That 1,800 is a little ways out.
That's hard.
Let's get to 1,000 first.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do 1,000 next year at this time and have a cool party and a cool gathering. And yeah, I like it.
Sorry,
man. It stinks.
Cycle the Dalton. That sounds terrible. Anyway, moving on. Yeah.
I'm thinking no.
You should buy 1,000 horsepower car to celebrate next year. John, that's funny. I do like that. That's very funny. And yes, Church of Petrol, it will absolutely be a live show with an audience. 1,000 horsepower car.
1,000 horsepower cars only. The parking lot is full of 1,000 horsepower cars. How many 1,000 horsepower? They're all EVs, right?
They're all EVs. Like everybody just the whole parking lot of EVs, and we call it a day.
Oh my gosh.
This is the funny thing where I apparently am not a typical car enthusiast, because a big horsepower number just doesn't interest me. I want to feel like I'm using all the car all the time. And those really high horsepower cars, actually, side note, this is why I think huge horsepower cars are desired by so many people. Yes, bragging rights. But beyond that, I think The average driver doesn't want to use full throttle. They want to use like a little bit of throttle. And if you get 1,000 horsepower car, a little bit of throttle is full throttle for something less powerful. And so they get in a car and they don't use full throttle and they think, well, this is just slow. I want to wind it out. I want to make an impression in the firewall and feel like the car's doing everything it can to feel that rush of using the car. And then let's change gears and let's keep going. But I understand this happened anytime you and I drove a Hellcat, for example. It's true also in the Cyber Beast. You go everywhere by just wiggling your big toe. And you're like, pass that person, pass that person. I haven't floored it the entire time. And when we do, we have to do it on camera somewhere near nothing because it's just a cloud of smoke and a bullet. So I think most people drive with that just little press on the accelerator and they never really use it all. So we have to have 1,000 horsepower. So that feels powerful.
I'm coming to the conclusion that between 250 and 600 horsepower is the sweet spot for me, at least. Because
did you say 250 to 600?
I'm leaving that open.
Wow.
It's a nice window. It's a nice.
You really narrowed that down,
it's
buddy.
A nice
Bravo.
Window.
Yeah.
The Arturo was 671. The M3 Touring, the Schnitzer Tune was 610 or 600. But then 500, 400 horsepower cars. Excellent. My Cayman's still 340. I drove it today and I thought, this is not the highest horsepower car in the world. And it's just wicked fast and it's excellent. And I love it. And, 250, 228 out of the GR86, but, just enough. 250 to 600, I think is the sweet spot.
250 to 600 needs to be the subtitle of, I'm literally writing it down. That is the subtitle of this podcast because that is the widest swath of here's where I think the sweet spot is I think I've ever heard in the state of cars. That is fantastic.
Just that narrow window, 250 to 600 horsepower.
Yep. I really hope you can find something in that, buddy. I'm really worried about you. Yeah, for sure.
But the BMW 610, and you put
out.
It down, and it's just sort of like
it's right out. It's right out. Anyway, Anthony Gothard says, "What are our favorite sandwiches? How different are our two preferences?" I will say this, Anthony, just as a general rule, I'm going to get something barbecue. And if it's not actual barbecue, I'd like barbecue sauce on it. And Paul in general is like, you know what? I had barbecue already this year. I'm good.
Yeah, barbecue is great every 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. It's great. It's delicious.
Yep.
I do like it.
Hey, DAC981, thanks for the hours and hours of kid-friendly car listening.
Yeah,
this is important to us. Thank you for that huge super chat. It's very nice of you. This is important to us. Look, I listen to Smoking Tire. I listen to lots of other podcasts on other topics. Some of them are family friendly. Some of them are not. As a dad, I want you to be able to listen to it in the carpool lane and your kid hops in. My son's 14 now. He hops in. He's heard mom and dad say everything and nothing shocks him anymore. But there was such a time. So if your kid hops in and you don't get to the podcast soon enough, I don't want us to say anything where your kid's like, whoa, or here's what's worse. Your spouse goes, who are you listening to?
Who are these guys?
Because that's actually almost worse. So we do think about it, and thank you for acknowledging that. It is a thing. What's also funny, the flip side of that is, any of you that have ever been with us on an adventure, I've had a few people say this to us, like, hey, the guys actually cuss. I'm like, yes, we do. We just don't in this forum.
Your wife is jumping in because she doesn't know what you're talking about.
She just redacted the message. Anyway, I saw it. Very funny. Yeah.
Barbara, yes, it is not the horsepower. It's the handling. Right on. Fantastic. Yes.
Mandy says the reason she hasn't been on the podcast yet is she's not really sure she could be PG. I think that's fantastic. That's very, very good. Anaswar, thanks, by the way, for coming out to Laguna and seeing us in March. It was very cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And sorry we didn't get more time, but Anaswar is actually one of our patrons as well, so we get to see him on our board meeting calls. We have our upper level tier is called the board members. I will admit they have no voting power, but they do get on a call with us once a month.
Yeah,
and those
but they're
are always
listened
really cool
to.
calls.
We listen to.
Yeah, we do, and we hear a lot of thoughts. We run stuff by them. It's been great for sure.
Important.
For sure.
John Katerify, can't wait for our video on the M5 Touring next year. I can't wait for that. I mean, it's a bigger, heavier car, maybe more power. Somebody's gonna get a hold of that and make it an 800 horsepower wagon. I don't know what to do with it. But back to the horsepower discussion.
Okay.
1,000 horsepower on track is also unusable. 1,000 horsepower from an EV or a car or whatever, unless you're on the drag strip, then 1,000 horsepower is sort of like, nice try.
Thanks for playing. Good to have you here. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you next month.
That's not your
when
one.
You try again. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But 1,000 horsepower in a street car, even a track car, that's not the sweet spot. It really isn't.
Apparently it's 250 to 600.
250 to 600 is where
really amazing. Yeah.
everyone we're at.
Barbara is saying that Mandy needs to be on the podcast. Here's the thing. My son wants to be back. My wife wants to be back. Mandy wants to be back. Apparently, people are lining up behind us for one of us to just not be able to be here and be like, okay, cool. It's my turn now. It's happening. That'd be very good.
Awesome. Awesome.
You guys are awesome. Thank you for being with us. Thank you just for engaging, for all the stuff. If you haven't rated this podcast on any of your normal podcast feeds, we would love that. That helps people find the podcast. Actually, just in the last month was really cool. We were on 2 different third parties. We'd never heard of them before. 2 different groups that actually made a list of best automotive podcasts. We were on both those lists. They let us know kind of as the list went live, which was really cool.
And that is not due to us. It's due to you guys totally, for listening, for rating, for reviewing. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for being with us. It's really
cool. And look, our Hooked on Driving, we are continuing to adapt Hooked on Driving. We're tweaking various things, even though we bought a company we're very excited about that runs great track days. That's why we bought the company. Thank you to our backer for actually stepping up behind us and going, I think you guys would do well with this, which was the only reason it happened. We're thoroughly enjoying that. There are days when it definitely feels like work, but there are days when everyday driver feels like work. I cannot believe we do this for a living. Exactly. Yes. That's what makes it work. But we're thrilled, and there will be some really cool road trip films coming, some really cool comparisons coming. We were looking at our calendar yesterday, and it was just like, I want to shoot that after. I want to shoot that after. I can't wait to take that trip. It's going to be an awesome rest of the year.
We've got a lot. We've got great adventures coming. We've got great content coming, and we're always thinking about the fun stuff, the stuff that will not just get clicked on, but that is really interesting for all of us enthusiasts. It's not just what Paul and Todd want to drive. It's the enthusiasts. It's all of us. What we really beat up the ideas and figure out, would this be watched, and does this resonate with enthusiasts? And we love the pipeline from all the manufacturers, all the fun cars, and I think that's going to proliferate. I'm confident. Enthusiast just reached out. He hasn't listened in a couple of years, but congratulations on 900 episodes. Thank you for listening. Whether you come back after a while being gone, or whether you've been here and have never left, we really, really appreciate your listenership. Thank you, guys.
And keep in mind that this audio will be tomorrow, Friday's podcast. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Yes. Again, the way we do this is these live streams obviously are not every single podcast. We do it every 25. The 100 markers just kind of sit here and boggle our mind. The 25s and 75s are more car questions like this, but the 50 is all questions, no cars. And those get nuts. So we'll be back for 25, 50, 75, and then 1,000. We're going to have to do something cool. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be awesome.
1,000 horsepower cars only.
No, only 250 to 600, Paul. This is what I've learned tonight.
You're right.
This is what I've learned.
600.
That is the range.
Telling you.
That should be on a shirt. It should just say, we're working on it. 250 to 600 horsepower.
It's a nice.
That's the sweet spot. That's very funny.
That's the sweet spot.
The back is like a concert t-shirt of all the cars that fit.
It's like this.
It's like this. But it's going to be like 8-point font of all the cars that work in that group. There's a wide swath there, buddy. Anyway, that's very fun. Church
of Petrol, thank you. Has been with us for 11 or 12 years. Came for the filmmaking, stayed for the community. That's right. And maybe HOD involvement soon too. Thank you. Thank you. It's your involvement, and it is the community. It really is, because when people actually meet, then you go, oh, there's a name behind the,
for
face behind the name.
For sure.
It's really cool.
Sorry, we were having this conversation with something else the other day. It's one of the other things that we enjoy is we do actually read YouTube comments, and we respond to very many. And I find it amazing when somebody just goes full keyboard warrior and realize somebody on this end reads it and goes, hi. I just,
we're
conversations have happened there for sure. So anyway, I do realize that 250 to 600 leaves the Elise out, but this is Paul's list, not mine. So
this is my list. It's okay, but it includes the Amira. It includes all the Avoras, most of the Avoras, right? All the Avoras, but not the Elise with the superchargers.
Elise with the supercharger is like 240. It's just under.
I'll let you in.
Thanks. Hey, you're being very accommodating. Thank you so much. Power to weight does matter. Mark Cooper said, settle a dispute. That's a good way to end. Saw a Lotus Elise driver with tan leather driving gloves. He thinks it's silly for any vehicle without a wooden steering wheel to have driving gloves. His buddy thinks otherwise. I've never gotten it. Even on a wood steering wheel, I've never really understood driving gloves. If that makes you comfortable, let me put it to you another way. If that makes you go have a fun drive, put on your gloves.
I know exactly what to buy you for Christmas.
I really don't want any. Thank you. Thank you so much. But,
thanks.
Exactly. But I don't see the purpose. One of my favorite things about the E-Type and those wooden steering wheel cars, when I was growing up, I was like, that's what's up with that steering wheel. Then I drove one, and there is so much tactility in a thin wooden steering wheel. I don't want to take it away with driving gloves
like
at all.
You're driving furniture. It's great.
Wheeled by IKEA. That's actually not the case.
No, not IKEA.
No, I know.
Nothing,
that
IKEA
totally winds
and
you
cars
up.
do not.
Totally
no.
winds you up. I think it's
IKEA
unnecessary,
and anything.
But I will say again, if it's one of those things where if the gloves made that person go do a fun drive, if that eventized it for them, then put the gloves on.
Gloves when you're racing. Gloves on track. I get it. All right. We'll wind things down. Thank you guys for being with us for the full hour.
Yeah,
we really cool. Appreciate it. And yes, rate and review. We've said before, and 900.
And there's honestly, I'm beating it to
Amazed.
death because this week it became very real to me. There is so much cool stuff coming. So stick with us. The original channel, the Everyday Driver channel, is having a piece about every 2 to 3 weeks right now. And then the Test Drive channel is every single Sunday, the entire calendar year, as long as they keep feeding us cars. That keeps happening. And then, of course, 2 podcasts a week. We record Mondays and Thursdays for releases on Tuesdays and Fridays, as long as my voice holds out. So that's all going on.
We'll give your voice a rest now.
The audiobook is coming. I promise. Just give me a minute. Anyway, thank you guys so much.
Thank you
awesome
guys.
to be with you.
Really appreciate it. We're always looking forward to next time. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.